If your garden soil feels like lifeless dust, dry, cracked, and crumbly with no signs of movement, it's time to invite back the living creatures that make soil thrive. At the heart of every productive garden is a quiet workforce, earthworms. These humble tunnelers are nature's tillers, soil aerators, and nutrient processors. But if your garden is devoid of them, it's likely missing the conditions they love most: moisture, organic food, and undisturbed habitat. The easiest way to bring them back isn't through fancy fertilizers or complicated systems. It starts with one simple act: burying the right organic ingredients directly in your garden or raised bed. Earthworms are drawn to areas rich in decaying plant matter. Their ideal buffet is soft, moist, and full of natural sugars and minerals. When you bury certain materials just a few inches beneath the surface, you create worm zones, underground pockets where microbial life begins to bloom and worms gather to feed, live, and reproduce. Unlike spreading compost on top or tossing scraps into a bin, this direct burial method creates an immediate environment tailored to worms, right where your plants need them most. The first and most effective ingredient to bury is soft kitchen scraps. Think banana peels, apple cores, lettuce stems, cucumber ends, and melon rinds. These decompose quickly, are rich in sugars and enzymes, and provide the perfect texture for worms to consume and digest. When buried about 4 inches deep, they stay moist and safe from pests while breaking down efficiently. In just a week or two, you'll notice increased worm activity, small holes in the soil, and castings appearing near the surface. The second ingredient that brings worms in fast is a mixture of coffee grounds and tea leaves. These items are high in nitrogen and provide an excellent medium for microbial life, which earthworms depend on to begin the breakdown process. Coffee grounds also help create a slightly acidic environment, which is ideal for worm digestion. When mixed with food scraps or layered with shredded leaves, they form a powerful magnet for earthworms. Plus, worms seem to gravitate to the smell and feel of used grounds, making them a great addition to any soil-building practice. Crushed eggshells are another overlooked gem. While they break down more slowly than food scraps or coffee grounds, they offer essential calcium that helps neutralize overly acidic soils. Earthworms benefit from a more balanced pH, and the presence of eggshells supports that balance while adding grit to help worms grind their food. Crushed finely and mixed into other buried materials, eggshells round out the nutrient profile and ensure that your worm-friendly zones are healthy and sustaining. Another powerful tool is cardboard or shredded paper, especially if it's been soaked beforehand. Worms love cellulose. It offers fiber, insulation, and a dark, damp place to rest and feed. Egg cartons, brown paper bags, and corrugated cardboard all work well. When buried in layers alongside food scraps and coffee grounds, cardboard helps retain moisture, regulate soil temperature, and create an ideal underground home for worms. It's especially useful in raised beds and compacted soils that dry out easily. The fifth and final ingredient that can turn your soil into a worm haven is aged manure, specifically from herbivores like rabbits, horses, or cows. When composted properly, this manure becomes a rich, soft organic material that worms adore. It's high in nitrogen, holds moisture well, and acts as both food and bedding for earthworms. It's important to make sure it's aged or composted, not raw, as fresh manure can be too strong and may harm plant roots. In beds where you've already buried food scraps, layering aged manure over the top helps keep everything moist and accelerates decomposition. Each of these ingredients works individually, but honestly they work even better together. Layering them in rotation, like a lasagna garden, creates a continuous source of food and shelter for worms. Over time, your soil becomes a living system that doesn't just support plants, it feeds them naturally. Worms dig channels that improve drainage and aeration, their castings provide slow-release nutrients, and their activity breaks down material that would otherwise just sit unused in compost piles. So, it's a closed-loop system that any gardener can build, with just a little effort and honestly some really huge results. If you want your buried materials to succeed, you'll want to keep a few things in mind. Earthworms, for example, require consistent moisture. Dry soil actually repels them, while damp, mulched areas really invite them in. Covering your buried scraps with a thick layer of mulch or even moist cardboard helps keep the soil cool, blocks evaporation, and, well, just helps maintain the right environment. You'll also want to keep your soil pH slightly acidic to neutral, somewhere between 6.0 and 7.0, for optimal worm activity and plant compatibility. And most importantly, try to avoid disturbing your beds too often. Worms really prefer undisturbed soil where they can build a stable tunnel system. Excessive tilling or turning honestly just breaks up these tunnels and resets the entire process. The beauty of this method honestly lies in its simplicity. There's really no need to overthink it. With each round of buried scraps, you're feeding the soil, attracting worms, and rebuilding fertility from the ground up. Even if you start small, like just one trench or one bucket of scraps, the soil responds quickly. Within just a few weeks it becomes more crumbly, more fragrant, and full of visible life. That transformation is the sign that earthworms have not just arrived, they've settled in. For gardeners growing in containers or small balconies, this method still works. You can create worm zones in pots by burying small amounts of food waste in the corners or around the base of plants. Add a thin mulch layer and water as needed. The worms will find their way if conditions are right, and your container soil will stay loose, rich, and productive longer than any commercial mix could ever promise. If this guide gave you the spark you needed to rewild your soil, share it with a fellow grower. Don't forget to subscribe to Hydrohaven for more simple, grounded, and science-backed gardening methods that work with nature. The path to a thriving garden starts not with what you grow above the surface, but with what you bury beneath it.